What is going on, everybody? Bullhead Gaming here. Today we are back on the farm to talk a little bit more about some wealth management stuff. So, in the last video we talked about production change, which if I could tap the right vehicle, I should be relatively close. Or not. Okay, good to know. Here, we'll make it easier. That's not it. Close enough. So, we had talked about production chains and discussing the return on investment, or ROI, as a generalized topic. Now, return on investment has a couple of other more focused topics, one of them being animals, which I previously had, as you see all the eggs strewn about in the field, as well as your choice on your fields. So, this video will probably be a little shorter than the last, but we'll get the animals out of the way quick and go to the field choices. So, without further ado, let's get to work. Now, animals in your game. On your saves, you have the choice to get animals, which is very simply put, bought through here. Well, this is how you can see what you have for animals. If you go into your shop menu, which for me on PC, it is P. You can go here to the animal dealer. You can buy your animals here. You can buy cows, pigs, sheep, goats, horses, and chickens. Now, I had chickens, and the thing about the chickens is they're easy to work with. When I mean easy, I do really mean that, because all it is handling. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I line this up right. There we go. The thing about chickens is all it takes is wheat or grain. Now, here's where something you have to factor in. Like the production chains, animals take something in and return you something else. Okay? But it's a lot more time on it. What I mean is even on a full chicken coop of 360 chickens, laying eggs every month still only puts you at about £1.50 monthly. Excuse me. So, they don't really tell you the cycles in the game, but that's just how I'm roughly getting it, is about £1.50, 2 pallets-ish every month. But the problem that I see with the animals isn't just that. It's the maintenance. It's having to go through and sell, eventually sell your animals off to then reproduce more animals after the fact. Now, in the scope of this game, it really is up to you if you want to do the animals. If you want to work with the animals. Because you still have to pay the maintenances, you don't have to pay the run times, but you don't also get the choice to just distribute and send it off to another production. Or another location, I should say. So, it's something just to think about with the animals, rather than just jumping in and like, oh, I'm going to get animals right away. Think about it in the retrospect of, do you want to pay a little extra for automation? Or do you want to work with the forklifts or whatever you use to move your eggs to a respective location? And furthermore, there's only a few animals that actually produce. That being the cows with milk, the sheep and goats. So, the sheep will just give you wool, but the goats give you goat milk, I believe. I actually have no idea, to be quite honest with you. Yes, goat milk, there it is. They produce goat milk, and your chickens with your eggs, as I mentioned already. Horses and pigs do not produce anything. Okay. However, when it comes to the pigs, I remember seeing the pigs, I almost said eggs, the pigs actually did get a lot. Now, the other thing you have to factor in is, do you want to grow your feed or pay for your feed? So, in this scope, I'm going to go to animals. So, pig food is $1,000 a pallet. Okay? $1,000 a pallet, that's a lot of money. And if you don't grow it yourself, it's going to really hurt on your finances, I believe. Let's see here. It is. You can feed corn, wheat, barley, canola, sunflower, soybeans, potatoes, sorghum, and sugar beets. Okay. So, the way it works is you have to use like one of these here, then another thing here, and then another thing here. Like, it's 3 categories. I would put the building down, but the building itself would be a lot of money that I might not actually have. Oh, I mean, theoretically, I could just throw this down, I guess, but... anyways. So when you're looking at the animals, you have to factor in how much has to get put in, and how much time has to get put in. Because if you're, in my sense, I have to, if I want to run a dairy farm, I have to flip a field to corn, or buy a field for corn, to then get chaff, to turn that into silage. Then I need a field for hay, and a field for grass. Or straw. I believe it's grass or straw, actually. I don't remember. Let me find out. Nope, not this. Nope, not that either. That's not gonna tell me. I believe it's straw. Like grass, hay, and straw. I believe. But don't quote me on that because I've never actually run a dairy farm in this game. But there's a lot of things you have to factor in while also maintaining the field. Okay? So, when you're when you're making your choices as you get further into the game like this, where I have the profits or the revenues to really say, alright, I have the money to really put some work into these changes. That's when you really want to start thinking about it, like, okay, eggs, they sell for $25.52 on the average every year. On the yearly, which is the wrong menu. Here we go, not this one. So if you go down to your eggs, boom, 2,511 right there, okay? Beautiful price, by the way. Love that price. But you don't, that's when you have to sell it to get it. Now, on the grandeur of your choices of farm, or your farming choices, you also have to factor in what are you getting out of it all? You know, your first year is going to be awful if you don't buy fully grown animals. As I burp in the middle of my sentence. So you want to also think about that. You have to mature them, which means you might be waiting a year. So that's going to hurt, especially if you're on loans. I hope to God you're not on loans for it, because yikes. So it's one of those things that you really have to stop and think about before you jump in and make the decision. Now, the best starting in my eyes, personally, is this. So I'm actually going to turn our attention to talking about crop choices in your farm. So this is also factoring in on the return on investment portion, while also discussing how to factor a good return on the investment. So the most important investment in this game, not just your equipment, but your fields, okay? Your fields matter. They matter a lot, and so much so, they are your most important point of profit. Your core profit point is this work. So, how do you gauge a good field for what you want? Well, depends on your yield. Now, if you don't know the yield, there's an easy way to do it, which I'm just going to do it right now. So, here we are, fruit types, okay? We're going to start with the most basic one of wheat. So this only sells for $1,000 per 1,000 liters. So this really doesn't sell for a lot. Now, I have 61,000 liters. That's across two. That's stragglers from the last video, as well as extra from the previous harvest that did off camera. So, not a lot of money you're going to spend or make off of this. Wherever you go to here. Huh? Wow. Boy, I wish I was doing some soybeans right now. Oh my god. That's nuts right there. But if you see the price difference, it's 3 times the price for soybeans over wheat. Now, that's like, oh, hey, I gotta go for that. Hold on a minute. This right here is going to have a lower yield than the wheat roll. Okay? So, my first field, which would be field, I think, 51. Is it 51? It is 51, wow. This produces about 30 to 35,000 liters of wheat in a single shot. Okay. 30,000 liters. This field produces me 50,000. Now, mind you, oh, look at that. They're both about the same size. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. Because I have all this open land here. This is probably only 3 to 4 acres. This is 10 acres, and I'm putting out 20,000 liters more than Field 51 is, okay? But I'm still getting 30,000 liters out of this field alone. I get like 40,000 liters out of this field, and this is almost half the size. So that's the point you have to make here, okay? 6.2 acre field. 99% of it is growable land. Is non-grass. So that's the thought process of it. Is okay, I can make some decent money off this. Yes, you can. This field is a $40,000 field every year. So if you're going to do a lower yield crop, you want to pick a larger size field. So 9 acre plot, I could easily choose oat or canola. So if I did oat goes for $1,600 at the max on December. This would put me a very good profit. Now if I went with the canola is a little bit more, so it's a little lower, but it still will give me a strong crop every year. Now, in the factoring of it is also time, which I will try to figure out between me and my editor, to have a photo that I found on Reddit. I don't remember the original person who made it, and if I did, I would absolutely give that user credit because someone spent that kind of time to make an Excel spreadsheet that he wanted to share with everyone, and it's the time everything takes. Okay? So, that's for the basic crops, but what about the extra crops? Like wood or root crops? So, lumber is one of the things you could do in the game. For those that don't know about the game, much about this game, you can actually run a lumberyard. It is very expensive to do so. So personally, I would recommend you not go for it immediately unless you plan on doing it as an on-the-side thing. So, lumber, if you're going to go with the wood chip side, first off, you have to get yourself a wood chipper. And yes, I did mod in the very common one that we all see our local DOT is using. Because, good lord, it looked cool. So, wood chippers, you want to make wood chips. Wood chips sell for a good price. Oops. So, if we hit wrong buttons. Sorry about that. Wood chips, because wood chips are considered a produced crop. They sell at $1,000 a pallet, or $1,000 per 1,000 liters. You know. But here's the thing. You gotta think about how long it takes to get just to get a tree down. Which actually, you can literally sell trees whenever you want. Oh my god. That's actually impressive. You could literally sell at any time because it doesn't really hurt you. All right then. Well, I'll definitely keep that in mind for the future. Um, so your lumber is going to take a very long time. So like, even with poplar, which is another wood chip type crop, here's how easy it is. From past research, and again, I don't remember the exact. I know it was a gaming website that had made the upload for it. Don't remember the direct place for it, but I do remember the article. 75,000 liters per acre or per hectare. So, because of that, that's up the factor. Okay? So you only really need, like, this little guy to put out a $150,000 harvest every year. Plant it in January, let it go to January, run through the harvest. Because the thing about poplar that's a little more ridiculous is, unless they've changed it, you only have one header. And that's this guy. Because all of these do not do poplar. However, you can actually get this guy, and then this little guy, and save yourself a lot of time and money. That's if you do poplar. So, when you're factoring in your yield, that's the most important piece. Is you got to factor in that yield, you got to factor in how long it's going to take, and not to mention how much money you can make off the yield. So, with this, with the field choice, that's all. That's the major points of this is, what are you going to grow on it? How big a field do you think you're going to need? And what's the ultimate choice? Do you choose to A, just do something higher yield, or B, do you take a risk and plant something lower yield so you can get a little extra money out of it? Now, certain crop types obviously require special harvesters, so that's another factor. Because unlike regular old grain harvesting, where I could buy one of these guys, and buy one of these guys, or one of these guys, and boom, I can harvest anything. Baling, you need all this, or at least the majority of this. These, possibly this, definitely not this, definitely this. You need one of these, you need some of these. Root crops, you have your harvesters, you have your loading, your potato stuff, then you have your vegetable stuff. And if you want to do rice or cotton, or sugarcane even, all right here. I mean, for crying out loud, you want to do cotton harvesting, you're in for a wild price, because that's just the harvester. And this ain't much better either. $350,000 for this. That is basically a forage harvester, specially made. So, oops, nope, no. Don't close you, not yet. So that's the other thing to factor, is you need special equipment. If that special equipment is not suitable enough, there's no point in harvesting it. So, you always want to make sure you're doing that kind of research. And why is this at an angle? You know what? I'm not even going to ask. It's very... I don't even know if it was actually planted on an angle or not. The grooves are angled. So, the next piece of your return on investment is always going to be your grain, because this is your main profit point, as I almost dumped all that grain out. So, my personal suggestion for this part is focus on something that's going to stay strong. Okay? Something that doesn't take a lot of time, something you can keep yourself busy with. Okay? Because the field prices matter too. So, these three fields. This field was 93,000, this field was 102, and this guy was 145. Okay? So right there, you're looking at about $350,000 in field. That field alone pumps out about 50-ish thousand liters. 150,000, and it pumps out 150,000 liters every year. Okay. $150,000 liters a year. So I got $1,400 or $1,500 per thousand. That's an extra $500 per liter, or an extra $5 per liter. Okay. So you're making a lot. You're going to be able to push out a lot of money. And for reference, if you ever want to factor in how much you would make off of a single harvest, go into your calculator, take the actual price, okay, take the highest demanding price, average, in your chart here, in your supply and demand chart. So I would take 1468, times it by, in this case, 111.185 times, because it's going to be this price this many times, and it will give you a fairly accurate price. So in my case, which I'm going to start this work, actually, what am I doing? I could just create fieldwork, location, start. Okay, so I'm going to go on my calculator just to give you a representation. So we have right there 111,185 liters. So let me get my calculator on my phone. So I'm going to do that math, which would be 1468 times 111.185. I would end up making roughly $163,000 off of it. It would actually be a little more specific, to be $163,220 right now. And that's only hitting the middle of the month. Okay? That's the average middle of month price to get. Well, at middle of the year for the harvesting. Okay, I gotta move some bread. Ooh, 6 pallets, hell yeah. Love to see that. Anyways, so, factoring that, all of your profits rely on not only your money, but your time. You want to do something that's not going to take forever, because you're not going to get many harvests out of it at the beginning. That's why you do things like oat or corn, or even, don't pick that up. Uh-oh. Just pick that up quick. I have to say, I really should be using my steering wheel for this, but I suppose certain things are not meant to be me. Just inch it forward here. Come on now. Get out of there. Oh, I'm snug. And that forward. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Ooh, I don't like that top of that wobble. Oh, crap. I gotta do a little bit of snaking here. Actually, no, I can just hop to the truck and I'll just drop that thing down. Holy Jesus. That's... Okay, so I actually cannot go higher than 5 stack. Alright. Now, to get back to the field choicing. With your field investments, never, ever, ever just make a choice without a little bit of research. Research always helps in this. Most people who do research, like in their own finances, will understand how they can afford something, especially if it's in a business. Okay? Someone in a business won't just pick a location and say, hey, we'll do fine here. No, they're doing research. They're asking around. They're seeing what the demographics look like. They're not just jumping gun-ho into a new place. So that's what you want to think about, is when you want to make a decision to adjust your items, you don't just want to jump in and decide, oh, I'm going to just do this. I'm not going to just jump in and pick one thing. No, I'm going to sit there and say, okay, I see a very large field here. This has me with a grand opportunity to really make some money. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to concentrate on that. Okay, there we go. So, take all those things into consideration. I didn't, by the way, intend for this to be shorter. So, with that, bear in mind, just to kind of drive this all home, bear in mind how much time and how much money you will put in to a very particular project to ensure you get a proper return on investment. I will assure you on this one that for return on investment's sake, we will not do that. This will end that part of the conversation. So in the next video, it will not be that, it will be other wealth stuff, but not on your return on investment. So with that, I will bid thee farewell. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please feel free to hit that like button. If you guys find yourselves coming back for more on a much more regular basis, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you know when I'm coming back on. And as always, I will see you back at the farm in the next video. Have a good one, guys.